Publishing has changed over the years, but at its core it remains the same. My grandfather's ability to pick a great tune enabled him to establish a company that still bears his name over 7 decades later.
The core of the business is still the same, which is working with great songwriters, helping them to write fantastic songs and earn a living through their craft.
For my grandfather, music was more than just a business. It was a guiding light, something that never deserted him throughout a long and successful career.
My father, Edward Kassner, was born on the 28th of February 1920 in Vienna, Austria. His parents were Jewish, and as a young man he had aspirations to become a musician. But any aspirations that he had were cut short by Hitler's annexation of Austria.
One evening, a school friend of mine tipped me off and said, "Eddie, you better disappear tonight, because I've just seen that all young men from 16 upwards are going to be rounded up tomorrow morning and taken into custody." And that was the last time I saw my parents.
He had a very lucky escape through Germany, and he then managed to flee to England and got here in April 1939, before the start of the war. Within a couple of years, my fathers had signed up and joined the British Army.
Enemy bombers travel at hundreds of miles an hour. Every town is a target. Any town is a target.
There was a lot of downtime, if you like, for soldiers, and they needed entertainment, and this is when his music started to come handy, and he basically joined a band providing entertainment for the troops. One night he was at the Hammersmith Palais. My mother had gone out with friends for the first time. My father spotted her and asked her to dance, and she accepted, and they fell in love. So shortly after getting married, they founded Edward Kassner Music Company Limited in around March 1944. One night in France, during a heavy bombardment, my father wrote what was to become his first big hit 18 months later, a song called "How Lucky You Are."
As you walk, as you talk with the one you love.
I then took the number, printed up a professional copy, and I started going from one artist to the next in England, in the halls, and they loved it.
People survive by luck. The ones who were lucky made it, and the ones who weren't lucky didn't make it. So the sentiment was appropriate to the time.
I started getting calls for orders for people looking for the sheet music, but I was not organized. I was just a one-man operation. And then I get an offer from Noel Gay, and he was a very active publisher, and he says to me, "Eddie, I pay you £250. I would like to take that song over."
My father came home and said to my mother, "I can sell the song for £250.
And she says, "I'm ashamed of you. You're a quitter." The next day, I said to Noel Gay, "I'm sorry, I'm not selling it." A few days later, Vera Lynn sings the song on Forces Network of the BBC, and 3 days later after that, the song explodes.
There's so many heartaches in this world of ours.
3 weeks later, the song was #1, and that I'm here today, I've got to thank one of the greatest artists that I've ever met in my life, Dame Vera Lynn.
The one that you love.
After the war, there was still rationing for a long time in Britain, and things were tough. And my father took the first opportunity he could get over to North America, first to Toronto and then to New York. He took English songs with him, and he brought American songs back to England.
If they made me a king.
He became quite good at picking songs, and by 1950 he already had 7 hits. By 1951 he then opened his first office in New York. My father was starting to have a reputation for being a hot young publisher. The Brill Building was like the Tin Pan Alley of its day. People would go around from one office to the next, knock on the door, walk in and play whatever they've got.
During a visit to my American office, in comes an enormous American-type guy with a green cigar and says, "Man, I've got a song." I says, "Oh, yes."
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight.
6 months later, the song is recorded in the Ken Ford picture Blackboard Jungle by Bill Haley and becomes one of the greatest sensations in the world. I mean, rock and roll was created by Bill Haley.
Occasionally my father took me to the Brill Building when I was a young lad. And one time I was in the lift with him going up to his office, and a gentleman walked in called Milton Berle, who was an American comedian and actor. He said to me, "What would you like to be, young man, when you grow up?" And I said to him straight away, "I would like to be a music man like my dad."
My son, my son.
He wanted to build a worldwide empire. And he had the opportunity to buy a famous American publishing company called Broadway Music Corporation. These great American copyrights became then the cornerstone of the American business.
You made me love you. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it.
Hey, take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back.
Feel so bad.
My father's successes ranged from Elvis Presley recording of I Feel So Bad to hits with Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and the song Portrait of My Love, which was the first hit for Matt Monro.
There could never be a portrait of my love.
It was a different type of business from what it is now. Publishers used to sort of trade songs like people that collect baseball cards. And my father always tells a very good story about how he acquired the song with these hands.
The situation of that song demonstrates, although I say it myself, my ability to pick a song. I was visiting a gentleman called Ben Bloom, and I bought from him a number called Au Revoir Again. And one day Ben Bloom calls me and says, "Eddie, I need a favor. I need some money urgently. I've just been offered $3,000, which was a lot of money, from a big English publisher. Will you give it back to me?" I says, "Benny, let me see if you've got another song in exchange." You're going upstairs. At the piano sits a man playing a song called "And With These Hands I'll Provide for You." I said, "That's it. I will give you back the song that I bought from you. I'll take this in exchange." And I paid the man in royalties well over $500,000. We started our own record division and came up with a very big #1 in America immediately, called Bobby's Girl.
I wanna be Bobby's girl. I wanna be Bobby's girl.
Around this time, in the early 60s, we started working with a band called The Ravens. And They changed their name to the Kinks.
And it was this ripping, tearing sound of the guitar. And the vocal, it didn't sound kosher or manly or anything. It was like, girl, you really got me now. It sounded like life in the industrial age.
It was a huge moment in music. In a way, I'm actually lost for superlatives when it comes to describing Ray and his music. It just changed everything. The 60s were swinging for the company, and hits like Bang Bang, recorded by Cher, Shirley Bassey had hits. Shake a Tail Feather came with 5 due tones, later to be recorded by Ray Charles in the film Blues Brothers. One day in the 80s, I was in the television studio in Manchester at Granada Television. Chrissie Hynde was also on the same show. I introduced myself. I said, I'm David Kassner, and like a lightning bolt, without any pre-thought whatsoever, I said to her, I think I have a great song for you. So I sent her the Ray Davies demo of I Go to Sleep.
I go to sleep, sleep, and imagine that you're there with me. I go to sleep, sleep, and imagine that you're there with me.
Fast forward to today, and the Kassner Music Group has changed a lot in terms of how it operates in response to technological developments and changes in music publishing practice. But its approach is still based on the same principle that guided my grandfather when he founded the business, which is at the heart of every hit record is a great song.
You're all working as a group towards an end goal and trying to build on something that my grandfather started, and here we are celebrating our 75th anniversary.
I house you, don't you know? I house you, don't you know that? I house you.
A love of 90s hip-hop and dance music means that we're also now proud to represent some of the standout names from that era. After a period concentrating on our catalogue, we've recently relaunched the active roster, and our first steps in this regard have brought us some major successes with artists such as Alan Walker, Katy Perry and Dua Lipa.
We rode on horses made of sticks. He wore black and I wore white. He would always win the fight. Bang, bang.
We're going back to the roots of the company and looking to become part of the hits of tomorrow. It's a really exciting time for us.
Bang, bang. My baby shot me down.
The company has changed the way the business has changed. So when my grandfather started out, he would literally be taking sheet music, walking them into the offices of record companies, playing the music himself and going, what do you think of my song? Now, you just take an MP3, attach it to your email, and it's there in seconds. So it's a lot easier to present your music to people, but at the same time, it's harder to be heard through all the noise.
I used to shoot you down.
I have wonderful people around me who love and care about music. We care about the writers. We want to provide a service to them. And yes, it's a business, but there's more to it. It's more than just making money. It's something that you do for love and you want to continue.